Welcome to Infinity Reviews. Oh no! Oh my god! No, no way! Oh, it's Cybertron! Oh, look at these fights! Hey guys, what is up? Yesterday, I got a chance to go see Transformers 1, the newest iteration of the Transformers and the newest animated project from Josh Cooley. I've been very excited to see this movie. I've loved both trailers they dropped. I thought both trailers were really, really good. And me being a massive Transformers fan, added to that excitement. I've always wanted, to learn, for me and the audience to learn more about Cybertron, the origins of Optimus Prime, the origins of Megatron. That's always intrigued me for people to go see. And this is what I think of the movie. I think this movie is great. It is probably one of the best Transformers movies, in my opinion, I've ever watched, And, that's not saying a lot, since we've had some very, very bad Transformers movies, but this was absolutely everything I've ever wanted from a Transformers movie. Let me go over that real quick. I really wanted them, they was really presenting these trailers, that people are like, oh, it's going to be a silly movie with a bunch of jokes all the time. That's like, there is that in the film, The first half of the film is a lot of jokes, that most of them land. A lot of the jokes land. Very, very funny. And, that's kind of the first half. You get into the second and third half of the movie. This movie takes a drastic turn. This movie gets dark. It gets gritty, It gets, really, really emotional. And I was so glad they took that route because, Transformers is a very, if you're a Transformers fan, the story of Optimus and Megatron does not have a happy ending, We all know that they become enemies, they become the yin and yang to each other. And, one of the things, I was really hesitant on the movie is, am I really going to believe, that these two were best friends, before they became the hero and villain, Megatron and Optimus Prime? And yeah, they really sold that friendship really well in the film. Now, another plus for me for this film was the animation. I know a lot of people were very hesitant. People were like, oh my gosh, I don't know about this animation. When they dropped that first teaser, I loved the animation. I loved it. And it was so spectacular to see on the big screen, It was jaw-dropping to see, Cybertron, Because I personally, whenever I've watched my Transformers show, I never really got the full idea what Cybertron was like, what's their society like, what's their life on the planet like. It throws you into this world that feels so great and so grand that you just want to kind of just stay there. That's what a film should do, They should, when you sit down, you should feel like you're transported somewhere. That's what I felt watching this film. And I think they did an absolute amazing job with the animation. And, like I said before, this movie, we all expect Transformers to have, like, oh, it's going to be robots fighting each other, That, and, you need a human in there, to make sure the audience to relate to these characters. This movie shows that you do not need human characters in a Transformers film. You don't need human characters so the audience can relate to them. We can relate to these stories of Optimus and Megatron, Alita, and Bumblebee. You look at the story of Orion Pax. These are people who have been degraded by society, like put down the work into the mines. That's the basic story. That there's these certain Transformers who don't have something called cogs. And, if you know what that is, that's really just, I think that was a thing kind of established in the animated series Transformers Prime. Cogs are the things Transformers have to be able to transform into different vehicles. And these guys do not have them, so they're put down in the mines. They're a lot smaller than the average Cybertronian robot. So, they have a lot to prove. Optimus, he wants to find another way out. He wants to find out of the cards have been dealt. While Megatron, just kind of wants to be there, do his job, keep going up and maybe he'll have a good life. But Optimus is like, is like D16. There's a chance for us to have it better than this. We don't have to conform to what they want us to be. And I think that was a really good message in the first half of the film. Like, we don't have to be what they want us to be. And, I think, that really sells the movie. I never thought we'd get a Transformers movie like this. And to see, the care and detail Josh Cooley did to tell this story tells us, there are people who want to tell really good Transformer stories. There's so many things you can tell. They've never really told like a version of this, the origins of Optimus Megatron in Transformers before. And that was like something I was really excited about. We got like snippets of Orion Pax in the animated show Transformers Prime, but we never fully got like a fully, good idea like what it was like for Optimus and Megatron during their time on Cybertron. And yeah, the movie was drawing. So what the basic story? I kind of already started explaining the basic story a bit, but basically, Optimus Megatron, they're miners, they don't have cogs, so they're kind of the lower society, and we get a few Easter eggs in there. I'm not guys, this is not gonna be spoilers because the movie does not come out till Thursday or Friday, so there's gonna be no spoilers in this review. But they want to get out of where they are, especially Optimus. Optimus wants to get out and kind of become the high society of Cybertron, and they all the Autobots follow this man named Sentinel Prime, not a man but a robot, and and it goes into another part that I really enjoyed about this film is the lore. They never really fully explored the lore of the Primes in the other Transformers movies. Sure, you had the Revenge of the Fallen lore of the Primes, but that wasn't really, in my opinion, accurate. It wasn't really like well told. This one really tells you, that a Prime is someone chosen by the planet, chosen by Primus to become this great leader in Cybertron. And you have Sentinel Prime here, which I'm not going to give spoilers. Sentinel Prime, I did enjoy John Hamm. He did a great job playing that character. But I think every performance in here I absolutely loved. It was just a great film. It was a great film because it had great animation. The animation was great, but it also had heart. It had action. And, guys, it was devastating. It was devastating to see, because we all know what happens to these two. They have to grow apart. They have to become Megatron and Optimus Prime. And that was the thing that made me sad, seeing these two drift apart, because I started to really love Orion Pax and D16 together. And seeing them drift apart was devastating. And, let's go talk about what I thought about the individual performances of these characters. So let's go to Optimus Prime, a.k.a. Orion Pax, played by Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth killed it. Now, the thing about this is that Chris Hemsworth had a really tough job to do. For the last 40 years, all of us have heard the voice of Optimus Prime, and that has been Peter Cullen. I love Peter Cullen. I think he's one of the icons, of our industry. He makes Optimus Prime. And the job here was like, can Chris Hemsworth really, be that leader type character? Because, I always kind of see Chris Hemsworth as the comic relief in a film, and like kind of like, not really a leader, but kind of like, a lieutenant or commander. That's why I kind of think of Thor. He's not giving speeches like Captain America. Thor is just kind of, there to be like the soldier in the Avengers, to send off, be like, Thor, go get him. He's like, okay, I'll go attack. I'm like, could Chris Hemsworth become Optimus Prime and make me think that guy can lead? He killed it. Especially, in the beginning, he's playing younger Orion Pax. So you have a more like a, an Orion Pax who's taking risks, who's not that leader yet, who still has some of those qualities that we see in Optimus, but overall, just kind of doing things for himself. Once, he gets his cog, and he goes through some things in this film, he starts to become the leader we know and love in Optimus Prime. And, he starts to become worthy of that name, Optimus Prime. And by the end, his voice for Optimus, because the voice does change in the film, guys, Chris Hemsworth does make his voice, it gets lower and lower in the film to sound a little bit more about Peter Cullen, but also he puts his own spin on the Optimus Prime voice, which I absolutely loved, and, I could tell the difference, it wasn't a copycat of Peter Cullen, it was a different voice, and him doing his own impersonation of what he believes Optimus sounds like, and I really enjoyed it. Now let's move on to the next character, and that's D16, played by Tyree Henry. I think Brian Tyree Henry might have been one of my favorite characters in the film, honestly. Megatron, I believe, is one of the most iconic villains in, like, history. Megatron, you think of Optimus and Megatron, you're like, those guys are good and evil versus each other. Seeing, how Megatron slash D16, how he went through all the things in the film, went into believing, that he could someday rise up and become, a worthy person in Cybertron, and to realize that everything he knew was a lie. I'm not going to explain that part, but, he went through such a great character arc. They really made a really great character arc for D16 slash Megatron. And by the end of the film, you're kind of on his side a little bit. You're kind of like, man, I kind of understand, why Megatron is how he is, why he's such this angry warlord who wants to change Cybertron to a view that he believes in rather than what Optimus Prime believes in and the rest of Cybertron believes in. It was a great way to really get you to understand what motivates Megatron. And that's what I think had been missing from the other films. We've had Megatron, but all we've known from Megatron in the Michael Bay films is like, here's a bad guy. He wants to kill Optimus. He wants to kill humanity. That's his mission. We never really understood why he wants to do that. Why does he want the old spark in those Transformers movies? Why does he hate Optimus? We see here, we know why those two are enemies. And, and why they had to go their separate ways. It was a great way for me to really, really understand, the mythos and the mind of Megatron and why this character, I think is like one of the best villains, in movie history, in my opinion, because I love Transformers. And, I've always been hesitant I've always thought, why is Megatron, always trying to destroy the world? Why is he always the bad guy? After this, I understand where he's coming from a little bit. Now let's move on to the next two characters, and the next one is going to be Bumblebee. Bumblebee is one of my favorite Transformers characters, mostly because my dream car is that Chevy Camaro from the 2007 Transformers film. That car, I saw that in the movie, I'm like, that's my dream car now, that car's badass. And, the thing about Bumblebee was, we saw in the trailers, he was the comic relief. And, the thing is, he is still comic relief here, but the jokes land. Michael Keegan-Michael Key was excellent as his character. And, I think he had a very unique opportunity in this role to do something really special. Because in my opinion, the audience knows Bumblebee as someone who talks through the radio, talks through there. That's what it's been. Well, I think in the old Transformers cartoon, the original one, Bumblebee did not talk through a radio. He had a voice. He talked. He had a voice. And that was something that Michael Bay did in the film. And that it became iconic. So Michael Keegan-Michael Key had the job, to really, find the personality of Bumblebee. Find, the scout in Bumblebee, figure out, what was he like in his early days, how was Bumblebee, was he an outcast? Was he, a badass warrior? But, I think he played it well, he was the comic relief. He added so much to the story, Bumblebee, has to be there, I believe, in the story. And I think, I know Michael Keegan-Michael Key can come off as, very, sometimes annoying in some of his roles he plays, because, he's very much he's usually the comic relief of the film. But I think he killed it as Bumblebee. I think, I think kids are going to grow up, now also realizing, Bumblebee can talk. Bumblebee isn't just a sound for a radio, He talks, he has expressions, and, we see, Bumblebee is, really, really sad in this movie because, he's very much alone in the movie. He has no one. He's, kind of the outcast of even the miners. He's put down, you see in the film, he's, when Megatron Optimus are thrown into the basement, he's down there by himself. He calls himself Badassatron. That you kind of get, it's oh, I kind of feel bad for this guy, and he just wants to make friends, that's the whole thing, he just wants to make friends with people. That's what I love about it. Now let's go to Alita 1, played by Scarlett Johansson. I think Scarlett Johansson, did a really cool job playing Alita. We've never really gotten Alita in a movie before. Sure, you can say Alita 1 was in the Michael Bay Revenge of the Fall movie, but she never spoke and she died very quickly in that film. But, in this film, I started to learn more about this character when I checked out the Transformers anime series on Netflix, and that was the whole sense that we got. I kind of understood the character of Alita 1. Alita 1 is basically Optimus Prime's second in command. You have Optimus as the leader, the commander. Alita is just like lieutenant, second in command, there to like kind of give aid to Optimus and like have him show him to like make the right decision. And that's exactly what she was in the film, In the beginning, Alita, came off as, very much a lieutenant type character, someone, who just wants to get the job done. And, or in practice, does something that kind of makes her angry at him and like kind of hates him. But through the film, we see Alita that kind of be like, Optimus, you need to be this. You need to inspire. You are the only one who can bring us together to fight. And she's like, I will help you do this, but you have to believe in yourself because I believe in you. And that moment, I think, really told me who Alita was. Sure, she's this military type person who just wants to rise through the ranks, but she can also be someone who motivates her friends, who can be there for them when they need her. And of course, she is a badass Cybertronian warrior. And, I really enjoy Scarlett Johansson. Sure, she's not like one of the major characters, but she had a really, really cool moments. And I think, by the end, there were some that Optimus and her had gone really closer to each other. And then Alita, really saw Optimus Prime as the newest leader of Cybertron. And if I had to rate this movie, guys, I'm going to give this movie a 9.5 out of 10. I know in my honest feeling review, I said it was perfect. Sitting on it, I'm not going to give it perfect, review. It's a very, very good movie. I highly recommend you check out Transformers 1 when it comes out next weekend because it is a roller coaster of a ride, It gives you the lore as a Transformers fan you want to be looking for, and also introduces a new generation to these Transformers characters. And, I think, in my opinion, right now it's the leader to win Animation Film of the Year at the Oscars, just because, the animation is so different. I've never seen animation like this in a film before. Just kind of how, like, Spider-Verse, in my opinion, like I said in my Out of Your Roots, Spider-Verse introduced, this comic booky version of how to tell an animation movie, and a lot of films have taken inspiration from that art. You look at The Wild Robot, has inspirations from there. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had that. I've never seen this animation before, and the animation works because of the Cybertronian aspect. I think, if this was an animation for, a Spider-Man film, it wouldn't really work as well. Here it works because, you have these robots who transform into vehicles, who have swords and guns. You need to use like a kind of sci-fi / futuristic animation to really show these characters and how badass they can be. But guys, that was my non-spoiler review for Transformers 1. Make sure you leave your comments down below, like the video, and subscribe to the channel, and go check out all our other content on our channel. And I'll see you next time, guys. Peace.